Conversation is going round. People talking about the colors come to town. Fresh as a summer breeze, she'll take you by surprise.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Freshwaves. We've got an amazing show lined up today because we have two Canadian Olympic athletes. And I'm going to say that even if you haven't been to the Olympics yet because it got canceled this year. We've got Sarah and Brittany, who are both on the throwing team, and their coach, Richard Parkinson, who is also the coach of the throwing team, but you're also an athlete and you've been in the world circuit throwing. So you can talk not only from a coach's point of view, but from an athlete yourself. So this morning we're going to talk about the fact that this COVID-19 pandemic has actually canceled or postponed the Olympics for the first time in history. I think the first time since World War II anyway. And it will no longer be in 2020, but 2021. Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing?
We're good, thanks.
Good?
Morning. Yeah, doing good over here.
Okay. So, Sarah, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah. I'm a 23-year-old from Brooklyn, Nova Scotia. Recently graduated from the University of Windsor and moved to Toronto to train with Richard. I throwed the shot put, and I've just recently come off of qualifying for the 2020 Tokyo Games.
Great. And Brittany?
I'm Brittany. I'm 26 years old. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, and I am a 2016 Olympian. I'm also a recent graduate in kinesiology at York University.
Now, Richard, how about you?
Well, I'm the high performance throws coach for Canada. I work out of the High Performance Center at York University, and I'm lucky enough to coach Sarah and Britt. I think it's the first time we've ever had two women auto qualifiers for the Olympics and from the same training group. So I got to say that right now Sarah is in Nova Scotia and Brittany's, I believe, in Guelph training separately because the isolation, the High Performance Center is closed. So we're separated right now in isolation.
It's an interesting thing because the camaraderie that builds on a track and field team, you always see the high fives. Everybody's, really friends with each other. So this kind of separation must be hard on you guys. I mean, even if you're training, you're still not getting that nice connection that you usually have.
No, it's really difficult right now, but it's also because everything's on hold. The Olympics postponed. There's no competitions. The IAAF, or World Athletics Association, has now frozen all the world rankings as well as any qualifying for the Olympics until after December 1st. So right now there's nothing really going on. There may be some meets later on in August. The two girls have already got invites to Hungary, Stockholm, Paris, Poland. So there's meets going to happen late August, September. But right now, while we're in isolation, we're pretty relaxed. As frustrating as it is, but there's not a lot going on. And the other good thing is they both already have qualified for the Olympics, so that pressure's off.
Okay,
so
you don't have to re-qualify after this big hiatus.
No, they have stated that whoever qualified before the shutdown, they'll honor those marks and that qualification.
Are you training every day now?
Pretty much. When I first came home, when the shutdown first began, we were training pretty seriously still as if the Olympics were still on because we had no idea what was taking place or the Olympic Committee hadn't made a decision. Once that decision came out, I took, with Richard's input, a little bit of a break and slowed down a bit. But now with things hopefully starting back up again late August, trying to get back into the swing of things as much as we can. So about 5 days a week, I would say.
You're training 5 days a week. What does training look like from isolation?
We're doing a lot of base type training right now. We can't really go super heavy because we don't have the teammates to spot us and the strength coach and stuff like that. So we have to be safe and just get whatever we've done right now and just keep fit, because I think that's the biggest problem that all of us athletes are going to have is just keeping fit.
Okay, but what is keeping fit for an athlete who's at the Olympic level? Mine is walking down the driveway. What's yours?
Yeah, that looks a little different, I think. Keeping fit for us, Richard has us doing, we really focus on like explosiveness and power. So having like limited access to training and stuff kind of puts a dampen on that. But we've been doing what we can from home, circuits, sprints, running, plyos, jumping, lifting as much as we each have access to. So staying fit is still, pretty heavy training compared to most average, person.
So how many hours a day would you spend training?
What would you say, Brett?
I'd say about like 3 to 4.
Yeah, about
3 to 4, I'd say.
Yeah. So Brenda, I've actually been really happy with the way the girls have been creative in isolation. Sarah went home to Nova Scotia to visit her family when the shutdown happened. That's one reason why she's there. She got stuck or locked into Nova Scotia. So her 1 week vacation to see mom and dad has now been extended to 8 weeks. In fact, dad has actually joked online with me that he's going to keep her there now.
I'm really happy.
He really likes her really being home. But both girls have had to be resourceful, and they've gone out and bought lumber to build circles to throw from. Sarah put up curtains in the or tarps in her dad's garage to throw into. So they're having to do whatever they can and be very creative to get the work done, to get the volume done.
And but they still get your guidance, because we're lucky in this day and age, unlike World War II times, where you can actually be in contact with them and check in and see what they're doing.
The internet's been great. They send videos, we chat on the phone, do FaceTime, but for the most part, they're pretty, at this level, they're pretty independent, and it's their responsibility to get it done. And because we're kind of dialed it back a little, there's no pressure right now to really perform. So we do the weekly check-ins and just try to keep everything cool and calm, because being shut down in the isolation can create a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
And there's enough of that going around. There's enough stress. So I'm not going to try to create any stress. I want to take all that stress away. I don't want to be the source of any stress.
I think you're like that on a regular basis, aren't you, Richard?
I think they would say differently.
I'm sure they would. So when you're training now, you've got the goal of the Olympics, but do you think that this lockdown is going to weaken your performance in any way?
I think at first we might be a little rusty. Definitely because we haven't competed in a while. So I think trying to get used to competing again will be interesting. If we do have meets, there's going to be no fans. So we feed a lot off the audience, and there's not going to be one. So that's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. I think we have a pretty good camaraderie within the throwers across the world. So my suggestion would be that we all just for each other. And, if everyone cheers for each other, then no one's getting left out, and we can kind of make our own atmosphere in a way.
Well, do you, when you're on the field, are you with the entire track and field team when you're throwing? Because I always see other people around you, and there's lots of chaos in the background and other things running at the same time. So there seems to be a lot of people on the field, regardless of whether there's a crowd or not.
Yeah, in those types of moments, though, most people are focused on, their own individual performance, their own individual whatever they're doing, whether it's training, competing. But there is still an overarching camaraderie between throws, runs, jumps. Especially, I think after this, everyone's main focus will be just ultimately supporting each other and getting everyone back on track to where they were.
But in a competitive situation, doesn't the camaraderie kind of go out the window because everybody wants to win the gold medal?
Yeah, we all do, and we all want to compete at our best, right? But you're not going to do that if you don't have that atmosphere. It's not the same. Anytime we have a meet in Canada, we're used to no fans. Not a lot of people come out to Olympic nationals, right? So okay, maybe we can dial it up a little bit. But it's definitely people from Europe and stuff like that. They're so used to having like a stadium full of people. So like, how are they going to compete at their best if they're used to that and they don't have that? I don't know.
It's not the same when you pipe it in, is it? So Richard, what do you think is going to happen with the training? Do you honestly think that September is going to be enough time that you're going to be in Europe doing training and meets?
Well, right now the provincial government said that track and field was one of the individual sports that could start training. That started on Tuesday. So
Okay.
golf, tennis, and athletics. Now everyone's trying to jump the gun. Now golf courses are open. They figured out how to do it with the flag stick and everything else. No touching the ball or touching the flag stick, and you can't ride golf carts together. And athletics, we still don't have a protocol yet. I actually have a call later today to discuss more about the timing of when the facilities will be open and available to us, and then what does that look like. So right now, our high performance center at York University, we can't open because York University has to open and have their protocols. We have to work with the city of Toronto, which manages this track and field center that's on the campus.
Uh-huh.
And then we have to be very worried about the people, the athletes, the safety of the athletes. How many people can we allow into the track? How many people can we allow into a weight room, a very close, confined space?
Yep.
How do we share the weights? Is it going to be one-on-one training? And then there's bigger questions. We've accepted meets or competitions for Sarah and Brittany conditionally, because we don't know what the travel is going to be like. We don't know if the countries are going to even allow, if Canada, if we can get flights to Europe, how are we going to travel through Europe? So if there's any risk to the girls, we've talked about it at some length already. And so we've accepted conditional offers to compete in Europe, but it's conditioned based on this travel and all the different regulations, the protocol. There's more questions than answers right now. So we're going to work towards the first meet that they have is in Hungary, in Budapest on August 20th. We're working towards those dates right now. That's why their training is stepping up. The intensity levels will really start kicking up in the next couple of weeks as we work towards that date. But we may not go. So it's all about the safety.
Right. It's all about the safety. So tell me, Sarah, if you're at home in your house in Nova Scotia, is there a place where you can go and throw your shot put where you're not going to hurt somebody or their house?
Yeah, thankfully, I think one of the main reasons, one of the best things it's been for me is, as much as I've been stuck at home, I'm very grateful. I have like a big outdoor backyard space and a dad who's very willing to help and build and capable of putting things together. So we were pretty creative when I first got home. Like Rich said, we set up a whole throwing facility in my garage because at that point it was still snowing and I wanted to train. And then now that the weather's getting nicer, same as Brittany, like we built an outdoor throwing circle, put it in the backyard, and I have about all the space I need to throw in the backyard. And then so we've built all that, and I'm lucky enough to have access to some gym equipment and things that I could need to train in the weight room. So ultimately pretty safe because it's just me in the backyard throwing by myself. So.
Okay, Brittany, how about you? Are you endangering wildlife in your neighborhood?
No, actually, I was really stressed at first because I was trying to put a plan in place because I didn't know what I was going to do, and that was giving me like a lot of anxiety. But I'm fortunate to have my uncle and aunt that live just outside of Guelph, and they live like on this big hill with like a farmhouse, and they got a lot of land. So my uncle is, again, like very crafty, and we worked really hard. We built a circle. outside. We leveled it and everything, had to dig some holes, and it's perfect. And, you know, it's taken a while to get like the right paint and everything to make sure that it's not slippery and it's safe. But it's working out really great. And I was also fortunate enough to have a high school teacher that he owns a lot of fitness equipment, and he let me borrow basically whatever I needed. So a bar and a whole bunch of plates. So, and then my uncle had this like bench, this old bench thing, home gym in the basement, and he hadn't touched it in a long time. So we brought that up from the basement and cleaned it off and everything. So I got a pretty good setup.
Oh, that's great. That's nice to hear. We're going to take a little break. You're listening to Fresh Waves. This morning we're speaking with Sarah Mitten and Brittany Crew, who are both on the throwing team of the Canadian Olympic track and field team, and they both throw shot puts. And of course, their coach, Richard Parkinson. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. We're back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. We're speaking with Sarah and Brittany from the Canadian Olympic throwing team and Richard Parkinson, their coach. And we're talking this morning about the fact that the Olympics have been postponed. Now, Richard, I was hearing from the national news reports that there have been some athletes for the Olympics who are quite annoyed with this postponement, and they don't think that the world is going to be ready in 2021. What have you heard about that?
Well, first of all, I think the COC made the right decision to cancel or postpone, or actually, COC actually was we're the first country to say, hey, we're not going to Tokyo. And that's before the IOC said that they were going to postpone it. So I'm very happy for the girls that they have decided to postpone it. I think where everybody's going to work towards next July. If it's going to happen or not, I haven't heard. You know, you can't listen to everything. And the way we talk to the athletes is reduce your media exposure, only listen to a few reports, and then shut it off. Because you can listen to a whole bunch of noise out there and it can drive you crazy, and it's a distraction. So we are working towards, the games will be held in 2021 in July, and we are working towards being there. I know our Athletics Canada and the COC is doing everything they can do to make sure everything's going to be safe for us. But there's no guarantees in life. There could be a second wave, there could be a third wave, but you know what? They could also find a vaccine. So it's out of our control. We control with what we can control in our own environment, and that's focusing on getting ready and being ready on that day.
So, Sarah, what did it feel like when you realized that the Olympics wasn't going to happen this year?
Coming off of such a high in February of finally, after, 3 years of training, like seriously to try to make this team, coming off that high and hearing, well, first off, all of the rumors and everything, kind of seeing everything progress through, and then hearing, even if the Olympic Games were to go on from the COC, that Canada wouldn't be sending a team, in your mind that that's the right decision and the most responsible thing to do in the world. But as an athlete, it was pretty devastating. I haven't been fortunate enough yet to have an Olympic Games under my belt. So this was a really, really exciting moment for me. But like Richard was saying, you can't think that, in 2021 there won't be a Games. So you have to just keep your head and your mindset right and focus on, what you can do and what you can control. So getting ready for 2021 is, kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Now, what about you, Brittany? You've been to the Olympics before. You know the hype and the psychological drive that gets you there, and then all of a sudden, it's almost like a car race where the engine just stalls.
Yeah, I felt more badly for Sarah than I did for myself, to be honest, because again, I've already had that experience, but like watching the news and everything, I already knew that they were going to postpone it. There is no way that we're going in July, and if they did, there wouldn't be a lot of countries going. Borders are still closed and everything, so how can you expect that? I think that Canada's decision really spearheaded every other country to start pulling out. So it was devastating to hear the news, and it was probably the worst 24 hours that we've both been through, and even Richard too. But I knew in the back of my mind that it was already going to be canceled or postponed. So I didn't get all caught up in being so devastated.
Okay. And now you both have a good inclination that this is going to go next year and everything is going to be fine.
Well, there's still that uncertainty factor, and I think that's what's really bothering like every athlete in the world. Not knowing no one knows how long this is going to last, and what the outcome's going to be. So we just gotta, just keep pushing along and just hope for the best. But I think the worst part about this quarantine is that, like, if the Olympics does get canceled next year, we've put a lot of our life on hold and we've made sacrifices. I could be furthering my education right now. There's a lot of things, and getting a job and making more money and stuff like that. So that would really suck if they cancel the Olympics.
Well, like Richard said, let's hope that they don't. So basically, when you're training at the Olympic level, athletics is your life. You don't have time for another kind of a life, do you? You're not out partying with your friends on a Friday night.
Friday night at our house, looks a little different than other 20-year-olds, I would say. The group, our whole training group, the four of us actually live together. So I think that helps keep us on the straight and narrow, because we all, come together at least and maybe find something a little more protective to do than what trouble we could be getting into, I guess.
Does it ever make you want to not be an athlete? Do you ever wish you could just say, I just need to relax and I just want to be a regular human being?
Yeah, I think our job right now is really fun, and we do it because we love it. And there's a lot of really positive aspects that keep you from doing that. You might not be doing what the typical, 20-year-old or typical person in the stage of their life is doing, but there's lots of times where we're having a lot of fun and traveling around the world, and all of those positives really keep you from shifting back to that mindset of, relaxing and wanting to go be a regular person, because I think we're just really enjoying what we're doing.
Well, I think it's part of what makes you guys special. When the country gets behind you in Olympics and they're cheering for you and they're cheering for the Canadians that are in the Olympics, it's, for us as spectators, we really appreciate all the sacrifices that you've made. This is the highest level of athletics you could possibly attain. It must feel fantastic.
It does, and let's be honest, like we do let loose every now and then. Like we do have some fun. It's just you have to pick your moments. Like you can't do it all the time. I learned my lesson. When I was a little younger, like I was maybe 22 to like 24, I was still having quite a bit of fun on the weekends, but you can't do that anymore. It's not gonna get you to where you want to be.
Richard is pulling his hair out in the background.
I know, but this is a big lesson for athletes to learn. Like, and you got to go through it yourself. So.
And then Richard, how is that for you? It almost makes you feel like a dad in a lot of ways, where you've got to really lay that hammer down and say, "Come on, guys."
You know what? Again, as Britt said, when she was younger, there was a bit of burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. But they're both very responsible. You can't do what they do at their level without being committed. And some of the sacrifices, I'm not sure if they actually missed the party scene that some of the younger 20 people might have. They weren't really partiers in the first place. Right. I mean, there's a bit of that going on at university. You blow off some steam once in a while. But at this level, it just takes too much of a toll on the body to recover for the next workout. And once you start doing that and it adds up and you keep missing workouts or you're behind, the other people around the world are making those sacrifices too. Competitors, right? So if you're out drinking and partying in the clubs, well, I bet you somebody that wants to beat you isn't. So it takes its toll, and that's part of the sacrifice. But at the end of the day, are you really missing anything versus getting to travel like they do? I mean, last year we were away from home. I was away from home 210 days last year.
Holy moly.
So that doesn't really leave a lot of time for partying.
No.
No, and like obviously when you're younger, you can do it. You feel like Superman and Superwoman, but you know, I'm 26 now. I feel it. I can't do it anymore.
So old.
I'm getting old.
You're ancient, Brett.
I'm getting older, right? So it's not the same. And again, like I was always responsible. Like I might have missed one practice, but that was, you know, out of like so many. Like I never tried to put my track in jeopardy when I did go out and have some fun.
Richard, you've been on both ends of this stick, so you know what it's like to be training and training and training.
I've never got as close to the level of competition that these two ladies have. They're far superior. I sucked compared to them. So,
okay.
And Europeans really like athletics or track and field, and they do follow it much like a lot of our fans for hockey do.
Right.
And they will have a lot of autograph seekers outside hotels for the Diamond League meets are standing there. I've actually had to walk past them with Brittany, and as we're walking to a meet, because in Lausanne, for instance, not Lausanne, Zurich, the meet hotel is just down the street from the stadium. So we walk to the stadium, and I basically have to play security guard leaving the hotel and telling people not right now, because she's focused and it's not time for autographs. You feel bad, but because we don't get that type of attention at home.
No.
No, none. So they Europeans really follow the events. They know the athletes. They seek their autographs. They're just absolute fans, and it's great for the athletes when you go into a place like Zurich and it's sold out, standing room only, and it's mayhem. It's wonderful experience. It's a great atmosphere to compete in. And so, yeah, it's much different. I mean, either one of those two girls could walk down the street in Toronto and never get arrested. Nobody knows who they are.
Yeah.
But in Europe, they'll get stopped.
Isn't that funny? How does that make you feel, girls? All of a sudden becoming a superstar.
Shock. Yeah, it was a big shock the first time. I don't know. Like I was like, they had your picture printed out and ready for you to sign when you get out of like the shuttle van, and I was like, you know who I am? It was weird. And then, you know, like Richard said, like, oh, like not right now, and like we're being mean, but they literally will wait there until you get back.
Wow.
Like after they go to the meet and they watch, they're back to the hotel trying to get more autographs.
Yeah, it's just polar opposite to Canada. So when you go over there, and especially for, like Britt was saying, like the first time it happens, you don't even know what to do. You're like, me? You know, people do that? So yeah, it's definitely a shock to the system, but it's such a cool experience once all of that starts taking place and you realize, like, you know, like, yeah, come here, like, I wish Canada was more like that for track and field.
Does it really affect how you perform then? You're entering the stadium and you've got this big ego boost because you know that you're great enough for somebody to really pay that much attention?
I mean, I think it all ties together. Like being in Europe, the crowd is just so different. They're so much more vocal. They're so much more interested. They know what's going on. They follow the sport. So it definitely adds like a whole nother layer to the competition. Okay.
You feel the same way, Brittany?
Yeah, it just feels like most of the time, like especially in Zurich and where it's kind of sold out, and it feels like it's like a world championship final because the start list is really good too, right? So
yeah. In the shot put world, is it like the tennis world where you're kind of seated so everybody knows where you're at?
Yeah, it's very much like that. So the World Athletics Association has a world ranking system.
Okay.
Where based on your performance, the actual distance you throw and placings at certain competitions, they rank the different competitions. So Zurich would be a very high rated competition. The women get points. So they do well in the meet. Sure, they get the award or whatever at that competition, but that performance goes towards the world ranking. And they take all the competitions and take the 5 top points and average it out.
Okay.
So right now, Brittany's ranked 6th in the world, and Sarah's 18th in the world. And
Okay.
that's all based on meets and performances at big meets. Now, there's also an event ranking list. And that is just basically based on just your pure distance you've thrown in that one season. And right now, both those have been frozen until competitions begin. The world rankings are not going to change until after December 1st. And that's revolving every 10 months. A competition that's on your ranking will drop off. So it's up to you to keep your ranking moving or maintain that ranking by competing well and getting into those big meets.
Okay.
So it's very much like golf.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so when you guys now have this hiatus, when you go to throw, are you throwing to the caliber that you were before when you were training?
I'll speak for myself on this one. Definitely not. The focus has been taken off of throwing far and being in peak performance and more on breaking it down and focusing on, technical aspects of the throw that you need to work on. It's the motivation level and having your training partners around and being without a coach have all tied into that. So just working on things that you can focus on, and distance has not been one of them.
Okay. What about you, Brittany?
I think I've talked openly with Richard about this, but I feel like the numbers in my training do not reflect how fit I am right now. So I'll be lucky if I throw 17 meters once at a practice and I feel a little rusty. There's certain things that I'm doing. I'm reverting back to kind of old habits in a way. And I know that Richard can fix that pretty quickly when we get back. So basically, yeah, the atmosphere isn't there. I feel like I always throw much better when Richard's there because he just kind of keeps me accountable in a way, or I have someone to impress. I don't know. It's weird. And I don't have that right now. So yeah, numbers don't reflect the fitness I'm in. So in practice, I'm not throwing far right now, so it's not fun.
What is far to you? What is your best throw?
I don't know. It feels good to be over 18 every single time. I think
18 meters?
Yeah, but it's super, super fun when you throw 19.
I can imagine.
It'll be
So Brittany holds the Canadian record at 1928. She had, I guess she broke the Canadian record 5 times last year. Threw 19 meters for the first time and taking the silver medal at Pan Am Games last summer in Peru. Sarah is the second best thrower we've ever had at 1884, which is her qualifying mark from New Zealand that got her qualified for the Olympics.
Wow.
Sarah also holds the under 23 national record at 1852.
Wow.
So right now, and you can only maintain that level of throwing for so long. It's about being in peak condition. And there's only so long that you can hold that form. So right now, we don't need to throw far. There's nothing on the line.
Right.
So we work towards that. And I know how many sessions it takes to get both of them in shape to throw that far. And when it's time to go, we're going to go. And that's why the next couple of weeks, we're going to start dialing it up. I know Brittany, every 28th session, from 20 to 28 session, I'm going to have her in peak form. Sarah's a little quicker because she's a little younger and isn't used to all the exercises. And so her adaptability is a little quicker at 16 sessions. So every 16 session, I see a bit of a spike. So I work the big meets around hitting those sessions for them.
Okay. You're still throwing, but you're really not trying to break your own records at this point.
No, not right now, for sure. No, they'll be in peak form again in August, starting August the 20th for Hungary and working right through to the second week in September. So some magic will happen late August, 1st of September.
Okay.
I expect both of them to be back over 19. Well, Sarah to break through 19 meters for the first time. That is kind of my goal for her, and for Brittany to establish herself well over 19. It's going to take 20 meters, high 19, 20 meters to make that podium in Tokyo.
Really?
So we have a bit of a gap to fill. And if both of them want to get on that podium, we have some work to do. So isolation or not, they're doing a great job getting that volume in and keeping themselves in shape so that when it's time to hit the intensities, their body's going to be able to handle the workload.
Good.
Yeah, and I also think that this Tokyo being postponed a year kind of works in both of our favors. It doesn't work in older. Like I say, I'm old, but I'm really not. I'm coming into my peak now, and there's a lot of older athletes, like 34, over
Really?
their 30s, like. Yeah, so that's, another year for them is like really hard for them to hang on, right? Like
Right.
Valerie Adams, for example, one of the greatest shot putters in history, has just come off of having two babies pretty quickly, like back to back in a way. And, she's 34. So like, it's going to be very tough for her to hang on for another year. She's pretty determined, but I think for Sarah and myself, that's a year for us to get stronger and to get just technically sound and just better. And it might work in our advantage. Maybe I'll be able to close the gap and have less pressure on myself. Because Richard's like saying 20 meters this year, and I'm like, that's funny. Like I just want to get to like 19 high right now, and then maybe next year now I can get to 20. Right. It might work in my favor.
So you're saying that at 26 you're not an old athlete. So what is the sort of peak age for a women shot putter?
I'd say about 28, I think 26 to 28, 29, something like that.
Huh.
And like Sarah's she's gonna benefit from this because it's gonna allow her to get more consistent at a higher distance, right? So she's hit 1884, but maybe now like you hit it once, right? Like that's how our program works. You only peak at certain times. So now it's going to give her an opportunity to get used to throwing 18 highs, 18 mids consistently. And then, maybe like then she'll make 19. So it's going to work in both of our advantages, I think.
Yeah. As much as it's been a disappointment that the Olympics have been postponed, Britt and I have both had a conversation about how, like she was saying, that this is an opportunity for both of us. I mean, you're all hyped up. This Olympic year brings a whole new intensity to the game, but now we have the opportunity to get stronger, to get better, to become more consistent, and have another year, especially for myself, another year of high performance under my belt before I make my debut into the Olympics. So like Britt said, I might be more technically sound, more consistent, and really have the ability to go from, qualifying rounds, make it through into the top 12 and go from there and see where it takes me.
So how do you guys handle the nerves? You've got to be so nervous on a big meet day where so much is riding on an eighth of a millimeter. How do you handle those nerves?
Well, I think we're both still getting used to it. I'd say like I've gotten it pretty locked down when it's just a Diamond League meet where it's a straight final. I'm pretty decent at handling that now, but I still got some work to do when it comes to a big meet like World Championships and there's qualifying rounds. Because I really felt that stress in Doha, like World Championships in last year. I just feel like there was the first time where I was, because the year before, the World Championships before that, I was not expected to do as well as I did. So there was no pressure on me and I was just having fun and I just went out and threw and did what I had to do. But this time I had a lot of pressure. I felt a lot of pressure. I probably put it on myself that, I was in medal contention with my PB. So I put way too much pressure on myself and I was like crippling nerves and anxiety. So I didn't handle that very well. So that's why we want to kind of work on that and get me ready for Tokyo. Because again, I'm going to be in medal contention and it's going to be, the same kind of deal where you're like super nervous in qualifying rounds. So it boils down to self-confidence too. Like you really got to be confident that you're ready to go that day. And I was not confident that I was ready to go that day because I felt great a week before, but I did not feel good during that week. So I think it's just like having confidence in yourself that you're going to perform well is like half the battle.
And Richard, you're sitting there nodding your head, sort of.
Well, yeah, because there's when they first start out and we get the first invitations to go to meets, my thought process is, you know what, get on the plane, learn how to navigate all the travel mishaps, the lost luggage, the shuttle didn't pick me up. I've got to share a room with another athlete. Taking a train and 6-hour train delays. So learning how to navigate all that and trying to compete, go do that and come home. Take that experience while you're developing and start applying it. So yeah, there's a lot of experience that goes into this, but there's also like last year we found a sports performance coach, a mental performance coach for Sarah. And she is working with Sarah. So Sarah's got, in behind these two women and myself, there's a team of other people. So there's an integrated support team. And so we have massage therapists, doctors, physio, because their bodies break down and I need somebody to put them back together. But a big part of that also is the mental focus, because when they get to the Olympics or the World Championships, there's 8 to 10 girls that could medal. But who holds it together the best is going to be the ones that medal. As I told Sarah once in her first big international meet at the University Games, you just have to mess up less than the other person. So they work with mental performance coaches, and we do a lot of mental rehearsing. We actually go hold workouts where we actually go through a qualifying round, and we'll actually go and throw later that night in a meet to mimic a competition at a big meet. I will seek out competitions where I can get them to throw on a Saturday and then come back and have to go throw again on the Sunday, because that might be the schedule at the Olympics. So I get them used to that and the mental aspect. And again, the last couple of years, I've had Sarah throw more than I would want her to, but I did it for her to get the experience. It's a numbers game.
Yeah. There's so much that goes into an Olympic athlete that we as the viewer sitting in front of our TVs never get to see. And I think it's really important that people get to know you guys. I think you should get off a bus in Toronto or at York University and be swarmed, because you are the heart of Canada's athletic community. You're rock stars. You're great. And I think you should deserve the same kind of recognition. You know, I don't watch TV in the summertime except the Olympics. And
I think that's when people go crazy. Like when they find out that you're an Olympian, they become kind of like they have like that googly eyes at you. But when you just say you're a shot putter, they have to ask you, what is that? Like a lot of people are like, what is shot put? And then you tell them, oh, you know that ball when you throw it, and they're like, oh yeah, I did that in school. Like I tried that. That's hard. So
it is hard. It's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, most of the time you gotta tell them what it is, though. They don't know.
Have you guys been able to have any physiotherapy during the lockdown? Because I know the average person can't. Do they not make exceptions for athletes?
Nope, none.
No.
None. So that's one of the things I'm hoping that we find out soon, that because if I start increasing the training intensities, they're going to get sore, and soreness leads to tightness and other things and strains. So I'm hoping to find out soon that when we do step up the training, that it also coincides with us being able to have access to the IST massage and physio.
It seems odd, because you would think that because you are so special, it's not like everybody's an Olympic athlete. There's so few of you that they would make an exception and allow these kinds of things, and everybody should take precautions and stuff, and it should be allowed. I don't know, just in my mind, that seems how it should work.
Well, it's going to be that way soon. But in the past 8 weeks, we have not wanted the athletes to travel at all, because you can pick it up, the transition from any place, anywhere.
Yeah.
And so in route, they could pick something up. And so we don't, just stay at home. Stay home, stay safe like everybody else.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what you're going to have to do for now anyway. So.
Well, the interesting thing is the IST team did create videos for them to watch about how to do some self-massage, some therapy that they could do at home, some common injuries or strains that they may get training by themselves. And they made videos for the athletes to watch. And, oh yeah, okay, now I see how I do that. So they try to accommodate them, and they've been available by phone or video conference as well. Just
Good.
not hands-on treatment.
Right. But hopefully that's coming really soon, because I can't wait to get back to my osteopath.
Well, I think for us, I don't think we will be in the high performance center. I don't think I'll be doing one-on-one coaching with these two ladies until possibly the end of June.
But couldn't you go somewhere else? I mean, really, when it comes to social distancing, you don't need to be standing right beside them. They're going to hit you in the face with the ball anyway. So you need to go a few feet back. So you would be back from them, and you're in a big empty field and no one else is there. That's pretty social distancing.
Well, right now, and Sarah brought this up yesterday, even if she wanted to come home, there's no flights to come back from Nova Scotia right now. And she can't drive because you can't drive through New Brunswick. New Brunswick's closed the border.
Right.
So is Quebec.
So is Quebec. Exactly.
So she can't get home anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I were, I would have to quarantine for 14 days. So
Yeah, you might as well stay where you are and use those 14 days to your advantage.
Right.
Now, do you have access in your town to any coaching? Like, you must have had a coach in high school or middle school. They're nowhere near as qualified as Richard. But do you have access to coaching there?
I have my former coach was really good, and we're still really good friends. But she actually lives about 45 minutes away from me. So we've been in talks about, with things loosening up, her maybe coming up to watch, but she has not ever coached the rotational technique, but she would just want to come for moral support and just to hang out and see what's going on. But so I think Richard and I will still be sticking to video coaching back and forth. But
You could actually put your computer on the field, and then it's kind of like that episode of The Big Bang, where Sheldon made himself a robot with a computer head. You could make a cardboard cutout of Richard and stick a computer on his face. That would be really funny. You should do that for one of your videos.
Tammy
can that would be funny.
Tape, and then Richard can tell her what to say.
Yes, it'll be just like when we go to competitions without Richard and somebody's texting him videos in real time and he's sending back comments. So we're very used to doing stuff independently or getting just little tidbits of feedback. So
that's great. Anyway, I hope you guys have the best summer. I hope you train and get everything that you want to get done. I hope the meets end up going at the end of August, Richard, because I know that there's so much preparation that goes into these things. And I just hope all the best for you guys. Maybe it's, like you said, not such a bad thing. It's disappointing for me because all my TV watching for the summer has been uprooted. But hey, we'll do it again next year, as they say.
Well, you know what? If the meets don't go ahead, maybe we'll put on a competition in Stouffville, in the high school there. We do use that circle occasionally at the high school in Stouffville. So both girls have thrown there, and maybe we throw a competition in there, a local competition.
Yeah, do a little meet and greet, and from a distance, people could, you can leave a pile of autographed photographs or something, and little kids can take them home and stuff like that. Because I think single event in Stouffville has been canceled for this summer. So, but we'll do whatever we can do. I'll come out and watch you guys throw. I'll stand 30 feet away. So, Richard, what have you got to say to everybody about the Olympics in 2021?
Well, what do I have to say is that we're going to be there and we're going to do our best, and we've got to bring back a medal or two podium finishes with these two women.
Wouldn't that be great if they were both up there?
Oh, it would be legendary. I could die a happy man.
It's Richard's dream.
Richard's dream. Yep. Well, and a deserved dream too. You put a lot of effort into this, Richard, and on behalf of all Canadians, I'm going to say thank you for everything that you do for the Canadian athletes, because it is above and beyond the call of duty.
It's my pleasure, and it's again, it's their passion, right? So if you work for your passion, you don't feel like you're working.
Yeah, that's true. And girls, congratulations on your finishes. Congratulations on all of the work that you're doing right now. And I'm just so overwhelmingly proud of both of you. And I can't wait to see you in the Olympics in 2021. So thanks for joining us today on Fresh Waves. Thanks for being a part of the show and supporting community radio. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate any exposure. If it's community radio or if it's the CBC, we appreciate it. So thank you for your time and asking the girls to come on.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Richard.
All right,
Okay,
bye. Thank
we'll
you
see you
so
guys.
much.
Good luck.
Bye. Thanks again.
Thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to Fresh Waves. This morning we were speaking with Brittany Crew, Canada's #1 shot put thrower, and Sarah Milton, Canada's #2 shot put thrower, both of whom will be in the 2021 Olympics. We also spoke with Richard Parkinson, their coach. We've got plenty of great episodes of Fresh Waves. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday here on Whistle FM. And don't forget, we podcast the shows on freshwaves.ca, so you can listen to all the episodes of Fresh Waves at your listening convenience. Have a great day, everyone.